Hello guys, and now welcome to the next tutorial of sound design. I just made the Polaroid one, and now we're going to be creating the Back to the Future Futuristic Bears drop lead. Pretty much it's like one of the easier leads to make. We're going to be layering a couple of super saws and just one single saw, I think. And yeah, it's a very simple sound, and it's going to sound like this. So we're creating that sound, but let's say you want that dum dum, that bass sound. I think they sampled it from Blaster Jacks. I forgot what track it was. I'll make sure to put it in the description link, and if I feel nice, I'll put the download link for that sample as well. So we are gonna be needing Nexus for this, and the XP Dance Volume 2, Angel 1. We're gonna need Sylenth1. Again, 2.2.1. For those of you asking why you can't open my preset, is because of that, because I'm using the latest version or the beta version, which you can torrent or you can just buy it and then just use it. Okay, so today we're going to be using two instances of Sylenth1. First, we're going to be creating this super saw, which is going to be more of a plucky kind, and then we're going to be creating this last layer. And then finally we're going to be using the Nexus to layer it and complete it. Okay, so let's get to it. Today we're going to be doing this whole layering, and then we're going to be doing some compression and some EQing just for the hell of it, since a lot of you guys always ask me this kind of stuff. Just keep in mind I am using headphones. I'm not using my monitors for specific reasons. Pretty much I don't have a thing on my headphone so I can block out that noise, so hopefully I get it soon. But yeah, let's get started. So first off, we're going to be having here part for the first Sylenth1. This is going to be a super saw. It's going to be a pluck super saw. What you're going to do is, first thing you do is put the polyphony up to 16. Since you're going to be layering this, you're going to be using a heavy amount of voices. Okay, so for part A, we're going to be having just a normal saw with 8 voices, retrig off. The attunement is going to be set to 11 o'clock. Remember, if you saw my how to create your own super saw, what the attunement does, it spreads out the wave saws, so it sounds more detuned. They're not together, so it's not tuned, so they spread out, and you cause this kind of nice sound that a lot of trance producers did back in the day, and that's how the super saw was invented with the JP's 8000. I'm not sure. Next, you have go into envelope, where we have decay at 5.15 with the release at 4. No sustain and no a little bit of attack. Remember, when you create kind of sort of pluck sounds, or in this case it's going to be like a super saw stab, you have your decay and you get to decide how big you want that stab. So if I were to lower this, you would kind of hear more of a pluckish sound. So just a tip if you haven't seen the previous video. Next, we go into the oscillator A2, where we'll have a saw oscillator with 8 voices, retrig off, and detunement at 11:30, between 12 and 11. We don't want them to be the same. Generally, just you just don't want like the same shirt over and over again. You want some variety. Same thing here, and then sometimes variety makes sound a lot bigger than they actually are. Filter A, we're going to be input select AB, cut off all the way down. Resonance is going to be set to 8 o'clock, and the drive is going to be set to 10. So if you guys put that, and this is going to be a low pass type filter. We're going to switch it to a 12 dB. Next, for filter control, we're going to turn it up all the way up. Resonance at 8, no key track, and 1 drive on. Okay, once we have that, we're going to go into part B. We're going to lower the first oscillator B1, which is going to be a different color, part B. Octave down. We're going to have a saw with 8 voices again, detunement at 11:30. We're going to pan this all the way to the left. I forgot to say, we are panning oscillator A1 to the left by negative 1.20 and the one on the right by 1.33, A2. So do that real fast. And the reason for that is just, honestly, you don't need to do it if you're using Ableton. I mean, Ableton has the utility knob, which allows you to do what we're doing here in Sylenth1, which is kind of just widen the sound out a bit. And you can do it through here. You can see the width here, just put it to 130. But for those of you who don't use Ableton, I really don't know if if Fruity Loops or anything else has a good stereo imager. So we're just going to be using this method for Sylenth1, so you can use this straight out of the box. So yeah, just pan oscillator 1 to the left by 1.20 and the one on the right by 1.33. And next in part B, we're going to do it extreme. We're going to pan oscillator B1 all the way to the left. Now we're going to amp envelope B, and it's going to be the same as part A because we don't want it to sound different. We don't want this to cut like this sound to come out first and then the other one to come out. So we're going to have it the same with the decay again at 5 or 4.90 and the release at 4. Oscillator B2, we're going to have it down an octave with a saw, 8 voices, retrig off, pan all the way to the right, and our detunement's going to be at 11. Okay, once we have this, we're going to go into filter B, and we're going to put an input select of BA. And we're going to pretty much have the cutoff all the way down, resonance pretty much at a little bit before 9, drive at 10. And it's going to be a 12 dB type low pass filter again. Next thing we do, we're going to mod envelope 1, where we put a cutoff AB. And this is generally going to be just if you have the cutoff low. So just if you're not intending on putting this down, you don't need to do this. But if you are, then this will give you sort of like that pluck. It will run the sound through a filter and then it will give it some warmness. We'll have it set to cutoff AB all the way to the right for the black, which is the amount you're going to use for this. How much you want it to increase something by, which is going to be our cutoff AB. Attack down at 0.11. And decay at 4.40. Sustain at 1.35. And then the release at 10. Again, we've talked about attack, decay, sustain. Best way to explain it real fast, attack decides how fast this change occurs. So the higher the attack, the slower it happens. You can see it here. And decay is going to decide how fast it goes down to the sustain level. And then at the sustain level, it's going to stay for this long. So the sustain level is going to stay like at that when you have it hold down due to the release being all the way up. But if the release was down, then pretty much what it's stating, the release is saying that, okay, we want to go back to the normal value, which was pretty much back here where our attack started. So yeah, but if you have a release up, we'll just stay at the sustain level the whole way. So that's why we have it up here. Okay, so once we have that, we're pretty much almost done. Since supercells are really easy to make, we're going to pretty much put an EQ1 pole. We're going to put the bass down all the way to the left, and we're going to put the bass frequency all the way to the left. So we're going to get rid of a lot of the lower ones. EQ treble 11.68 dB with the frequency at 639.75 hertz. Again, like I've explained, if you guys were to bring up a spectrum analyzer, and I'm not going to do this like I did last time, but here you're going to see 635. You find it, and it's around the mids, as you can see. So we're going to be boosting this part up. So whenever you're in Sylenth1 and you're creating your own sound and you're like, okay, how am I going to do this? Bring up a spectrum analyzer, play your sound out a bit, see what frequencies you want to boost, and just do that through there. Or you can do it through your own EQ, let's say Ableton's EQ, which is a little bit smarter. Okay, so once we have that, we're going to go to the delay. We're going to put dry and wet at 32.80. Delay time to the left 1.8D. Delay time to the right 1.4. Delay low cut, which is pretty much like the delay. You actually hear the which is kind of an echo. You're going to put a low cut on that. So you're low cutting the delay that's being produced and the high cut. So the delay low cut's at 8.03 hertz. And the high cut is at 21,120 hertz. Okay, and we have the delay smur 0.01, just leave it at 0. Spread 65, feedback at 60%, and width all the way up, of course. Next, we go into reverb, where we're going to be putting a dry and wet of 43. Reverb size at 7.64, width all the way up, pre-delay at 0, and no dampness. To explain this real fast, size decides how big the room the sound is going to be in, the algorithm. Pretty much more is bigger. Width is going to decide the stereo of your reverb. So if you were to have the reverb like this, you would hear it more in the center. But if you have it all the way up, you'll hear it more to the sides. And pretty much that's all that's going to be stated. Mix A, 4.60 right here. Mix B is going to be at 4.20, a little bit more lower, 1.41 main volume. So we're going to lower it to compensate for having 8 voices in every oscillator. More voices equals more waves coming out, and more waves coming out equals more sound. So pretty much once we have that, we should be getting this sound, which, this one. Okay, now we're going to go into the next sound, which is going to be another saw. Let's type. So hope you guys are ready for this one. This one has a little bit more effects though. Okay, so in part A, we're going to be putting the polyphony up to 6. Again, we're not going to be layering the notes on this one because we don't want it. We just want a specific frequency from this. So we're going to be putting 8 voices, retrig off. Detunement is going to be set to 4.81, and we're going to have a saw. for our amp envelope A, we're going to put the attack all the way down and our release at 0.79. And we're going to put our sustain and decay all the way up. For oscillator A2, we're going to have this up 2 octaves. It's going to be a saw with 8 voices, no retrig, detunement. And we're going to put the volume down on this since it's so high at 2.76. Reason for that is because you can hear higher frequencies better when you have it low than lower ones. Lower ones need to be boosted more. So I mean, the best example is when you're mixing your track and trying to get the levels right. You'll notice that you need to have your bass a little bit louder for it to come out more, while your highs are just coming straight out when they're at low volume. So now we go into filter A, where we have input select A, filter A type low pass, 12 dB type, cutoff at 2, resonance at 10, and drive at 3 o'clock. So we're boosting volume here. Next, we'll go into filter control, where we have the cutoff all the way up and the resonance at 10 and the key track at 8 with the warm drive on. Okay, so once we have that, we're going to go into part B, where we'll be putting a noise with 8 voices. Let's lower that down to 1 voice. Volume is going to be set to 8, detunement at 12. In amp envelope B, we're going to be putting a release at 2.34, so we'll move this up here. And the attack's going to be down, decay and sustain up. The reason we have more release on this is because we're producing white noise for this one, so we want the white noise to stick around a little bit more longer. Next, we're going to go into oscillator B2, where we have a saw with 8 voices, retrig on this one because we're not detuning it. So, well, actually we are by a little bit, not that much, by 0.14. Volume's going to be lowered to 7.76. And no filter for this side. So once we have that, we're going to do the technique I've been showing you guys, where we put the pitch AB. We're going to put it to the left by negative 0.29. And you got to be precise with this. Our attack is at 1.03, decay at 0.52. No sustain and no release. We're going to go into the phaser effect, where we're going to put the dry and wet at pretty much 2 o'clock. Center frequency, make sure they all look the same, spread all the way up. No LR offset, width all the way. LFO rates A to 1, D, which is all the way to the left. LFO gain all the way to the left. Feedback at 9.05%. And pretty much that's it for the phaser section. I don't think I need to explain what the phaser does. Chorus, 22.86. Delay, 8.80 milliseconds. Rate all the way up. Depth, it's going to be at 40. We'll put dual mode on for this one. Feedback, nope. And width all the way up. We're going to put a 1 pole EQ. Bass at 6.36 dB, so we're kind of lowering a bit at the frequency of 103.65 hertz, with the treble up to 8.50 dB at the frequency of 1532.17 hertz. We're going to be putting some reverb on this. Dry and wet set to 12. We're going to put dampness on this reverb, so we want it in the lower frequencies, and we're going to put it at 3 o'clock. Pre-delay, 145.71 milliseconds. I'm sure I don't need to explain what this is, the pre-delay before the reverb starts. Reverb size 6.55 and the width all the way up. And then we're going to do a little bit of compression. For every 1.12 sound that comes out, we're going to get 1 unit of sound. So here we're going to have the ratio pretty much at A, which is 1.12. Threshold set to negative 4.71 dB. The attack at 43.66 and the release at 150.70. Once we have that, pretty much I believe we're done with the sound. We're just going to increase mix A and mix B a little bit. So mix A 6.44 and mix B 6.32 and the main volume by 0.92, so 5.92. So once we have that, we should be getting the sound. Okay, so finally we go into the Nexus. You're going to need pretty much XP Dance Volume 2, which is available with almost honestly every torrent imaginable will have these packs in it that you can install. So all you're gonna use is the first lead called Lead Angel 1. You're gonna turn the cutoff all the way up, and pretty much you're done. And if we have all these sounds playing together, we get this. Alright, so I'm going to teach you guys just a little quick tip. When you finally get these sounds layered like this, what you do is you can hold Control and Ableton, click on these and they'll light up green. You can click or different color according to yours. You're going to press Control G, which is a command to create a group. Control R, so you can rename the group. And just call it whatever you want, maybe drop leads, since they're the leads in the drop. and then we have them grouped. So let's lower them a bit. So whenever I layer my leads, what I like to do is I like to put a compressor on. Pretty much what the compressor is going to do is it's going to squish dynamics. So pretty much the best way to put this is, let's say I have let's say I have this sound right here. Okay, and then we have all of this. Well, I'm gonna make this come out if I lower the dynamics enough. So now here, look at the difference from here to here. You can see the volume. Turn it off. So if you kind of get the idea what compression is doing, it's squishing dynamics. So you can make anything like a whisper sound like someone shouting. Well, not literally like going ah, but you'll hear the whisper really loud. So that's what compression does. That's the best way, the simplest way to put compression is just squishing dynamics like that. So see, if I have this low here, you can see the difference in volume straight away from the group. And I just have this soloed, by the way. So it's just this sound right now. So that's the sound change you're gonna see from a compressor. So generally when you have your leads together, you compress them a little just so they all sound at the same volume and it sounds in unison, more than just having like one loud one, one middle one, and one small one. So you can see what it is. Okay, now let's redo that because that's the worst way of compressing. I was just trying to show you guys a good example of it. So generally a good sense to have is just to kind of lower it. And try not to really over compress it, but try and get whatever you're trying to get to come out. That's the reason for compressing. It makes everything sound equally loud sometimes, and that's the whole point of it. But the side thing is that you're giving up dynamics. So if you're really smart about it, you'll be able to compress and not really kill your dynamics. Okay, so finally the last thing we do is we get an EQ8. Let's say you're gonna be using this with a big room kick. Straight away, you want to get rid of everything below 200. And then you want to put a high pass to kind of get rid of those high sounds. I like whenever you put a high pass, I call it taming the hissiness and shit. Then we're gonna get this. So if you can hear this frequency is kind of more of the reverb. So let's say you kind of don't want that reverb to be so loud, you can kind of lower this frequency. So you're kind of taming that, and then if you're gonna be lowering, you can compensate and you can increase certain aspects. So here we're gonna do this. And then to finish it off, you can add I like to use a vintage warmer. I think it's one of the most popular fucking plugins. But you just put this on. So pretty much what the vintage warmer does is it saturates the sound, so it adds more data to the data you already have, and it kind of it's like harmonic data. And what it does, it just makes it sound a lot brighter, and it makes it sound a lot bigger. I haven't really delved into this vintage warmer, but pretty much all the tutorials I've read is just turn the drive up and get it to where you like, and that's about it. But I'm sure this is probably like an EQ and so forth. So yeah, it's pretty cool plugin that you should get if you don't own, and put it on all your fucking super saws. Other things I would do probably here, and honestly thinking about it, is just apply a side chain, maybe some saturation, and I'll pretty much be done with it, because we already have these sounds heavily layered and sounding pretty good. Also, one more thing to keep in mind is that you kind of if your sound sounds like shit when you're EQing it, try and hear it with in the mix rather than, you know, just by itself, because obviously it's gonna sound like shit. But when everything's playing together, certain, like, the bass is gonna cover the frequencies we took off at the 200s, like all of this. And then let's say we take down this, well, something else can fit in here, and so forth, maybe another reverb or something. So yeah, you just want to do certain things like that. Give yourself room. Like, we have this spot open. This is probably where the snare would kind of pop. So if you have percussion going, you can bring them up here, and you give yourself room. Maybe you can turn this down as well a little bit, not that much though. And then you can do little cuts, just very tiny little cuts, in order to let stuff come through. That's what EQing is all about. It's just making it sound away that you want, and kind of making everything sound together. So compression and that will do it for you. And I just talked about everything. We created some sounds. Hopefully you guys can use the sound to its potential. My best advice would be to kind of change it up though, kind of maybe add some distortion, Camel Crush, and see what you can come up with to make it sound a little bit different. But other than that, these presets will be available for download on my Facebook page at Zenworld Music. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. This one was a long one, but I kind of want to get it into what it takes and what you can do to the sound afterwards, the processing of it. Anyways, guys, this has been Sound Design episode 34 or 35, and I'll see you guys next week.